Hello and welcome to Wisdom Trek. This is Guthrie Chamberlain, and I'm your guide to wisdom and creating a living legacy. Thank you for joining us for our 7-day-a-week, 7 Minutes of Wisdom podcast. This is day 131 of our trek. Yesterday, and for the next few days, we will remain in camp and dig for the nuggets of wisdom contained in the book of Proverbs, and today we're continuing in chapter 2. As we complete the entire book of Proverbs, we will make the entire commentary available in an ebook for you. If you have any of your own observations, comments, or questions as we explore these nuggets of wisdom, please share them on the comment section of the daily journal pages on wisdom-trek.com. We are recording our podcast from our studios at Home 2 in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was a late night of work last night, and will probably be again tonight. We did have the pleasure of having pizza last evening with our oldest son Harry, his wife Chalimo, and their son Kip. Regardless of how busy our schedules are, we treasure these times that we can spend with our kids and grandkids. Staying focused on what is important is so crucial to living a rich and satisfying life. I was also interviewed today on the Heart of the Matter podcast hosted by Brian King. It was conducted over a new technology called Blab, which allows up to 4 people to be on a live video and audio chat while others can observe. It can also be recorded so that it can be replayed at a later date. If you are interested in watching this episode, which was recorded, I posted a link to it on the Wisdom Trek journal page for day 131. And as we sit around the campfire today, let us continue to study our treasure map, which we found to be in the book of Proverbs, as we seek for hidden treasures that are contained in the book. We should seek for these wisdom nuggets as if they were actual nuggets of gold, because they are so much more valuable than gold itself. The title of Proverbs chapter 2 is The Benefits of Wisdom, and we looked at verses 1 through 15 yesterday, so if you missed that, please go back and listen to it so you'll get caught up with us. So let's continue in this section titled The Journey of Life, as we start with verse 16 today. Wisdom will save you from the immoral woman, from the seductive words of the promiscuous woman. She has abandoned her husband and ignores the covenant she made before God. Entering her house leads to death. It is the road to the grave. The man who visits her is doomed. He will never reach the paths of life. We see in these verses the woman tries to tempt a man. Deuteronomy 5 lists 10 commands that God gave. One of those commands was, do not have sex with somebody else's wife or husband, which is Deuteronomy 5:18. The woman in the book of Proverbs refuses to follow this command, and the man who goes to her is in danger. Solomon is teaching us about other wrong actions. Sometimes wrong actions can actually be attractive. Sometimes evil thoughts can tempt us. Sometimes we might think that God is not fair. Perhaps the man likes this woman. However, he must not go to her. She was not his to have. We must not do wrong actions when evil thoughts tempt us. The devil even tested Jesus in Matthew 4, verses 1 through 11, but Jesus did nothing that was wrong against God. God gives his wisdom to us. His word teaches us how we should live. Now, if we turn from God, it is like leaving your husband or wife. When you become a Christian, you promise to follow God. Evil thoughts still may tempt you. They do each of us. Other religions may tempt you. Sex may even tempt you. But do not break your promises to God. Jesus put it this way in John 14:6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Now even Solomon, who wrote the book of Proverbs, turned away from God in his older years. He had many wives. Some were followers of other religions. With his wife, Solomon prayed to these other gods. But the Bible says that Solomon's actions were evil in 1 Kings 11, verses 1 through 13. We should learn from Solomon's mistakes. Although we may not clearly understand the purposes for God's decrees, we must follow them anyway. God gave great wisdom to Solomon, and Solomon passed on that wisdom to us. His book of Proverbs still teaches us wisdom today. So we must follow God. We must desire God's wisdom. We must not be like Solomon, who turned away from God when he was older. Next, we want to look at the land that God had promised the children of Israel. And this follows verse 19, which said, the man who visits her is doomed. He will never reach the paths of life. So let's go on to verse 20 now, which says, follow the steps of good men instead, and stay on the paths of the righteous. For only the godly will live in the land, and those with integrity will remain in it. But the wicked will be removed from the land, and the treacherous will be uprooted. God gave the land to the nation of Israel. He warned them, though, to follow his commands. If the nation turned away from God, then they would lose their land, which is told to us in Deuteronomy 28. Now Solomon knew that God had warned them. And after Solomon was no longer king, the people served false gods. Some of the kings after him were good, but most of them were evil. God did not punish the nation immediately, though. God told his people to return to him, but they did not return. So after war, they lost their land. As Christians, we need to keep in perspective that our land is not this world. We are only visitors here because we belong elsewhere. Our real home is in heaven, although that does not give us any excuse not to make a tremendous impact on our world today. But in Hebrews chapter 11, verses 13 through 16 puts it this way: all these people died still believing what God had promised them. They did not receive what was promised, but they saw it all from a distance and they welcomed it. They agreed that they were foreigners and nomads here on earth. Obviously, people who say such things are looking forward to a country that they call their own. If they had longed for the country they came from, they could have gone back, but they were looking for a better place, a heavenly homeland. That is why God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. So we see here that we must follow God, and when we do, he will lead us to that heavenly home. He has prepared a place for us in heaven, and this is told to us in John 14, verses 1 through 4, when Jesus told his disciples, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust also in me. There is more than enough room in my Father's home. If this were not so, would I have told you that I am going to prepare a place for you? When everything is ready, I will come and get you, so that you will always be where I am, and you know the way to where I am going." This passage comes to my mind quite often as I'm renovating the big house in Marietta. As we prepare additional room, it is my heart's desire to make it a place where family and friends can stay for rest and relaxation, so that they feel like they are coming home, which will be nothing compared to the home that we do have in heaven. Today we continued on our trek of Proverbs. We continued on the journey of life, as we have to be vigilant to do what is right, regardless of whether it is attractive. And in doing so, we will be following the trails that lead to the good land. Think about these points for today, and join us tomorrow as we continue in Proverbs 3 for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. And that will finish our podcast for today. Remember to listen to your daily dose of wisdom at wisdom-trek.com or subscribe at iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker, or YouTube. And when you do so, the episodes will be downloaded to you automatically each day. And I would like to ask a favor, if you would share Wisdom Trek with your family and friends through email, Facebook, Twitter, or in person, so that they can come along with us each day also. The journal for today's trek can be found at wisdom-trek.com. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, your mentor, but most importantly, your friend, as I serve you through the Wisdom Trek podcast and journal each day. And as we take this trek together, let us always live abundantly or fully, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, and then leave a living legacy each day. This is Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and then create a great day every day. See you tomorrow.